Hey, I'm Ben.
And I'm Andrew.
And we're the Boba Guys. This is a giant robot Boba Talk. Yeah, today I've got the strawberry jasmine tea fresca. We use real strawberries. We make it similar to an agua fresca that you would get at a taqueria, and it's made with our jasmine milk tea.
So I did I like my black teas, but I use two types of black teas. I use our basic black tea, which is like 3 different combinations of teas, but I use the high-end black tea, which is we call it golden honey. Then I put that with a disproportionate amount of milk, but in this case, oat milk. I like oat milk a lot. It's been really good. It's pretty creamy. And then we have our homemade grass jelly, and then I put a little bit of honey and a little bit of syrup. So it's a lot of steps.
Oh my God.
So don't order that at our stores. You probably can order it at our stores, but don't order it at our stores. A version of this is essentially our secret menu. Oh, I had coffee in here too.
Yeah, I mean, we work together at this company called Timbuktu. They make messenger bags and backpacks here in San Francisco. And I was the creative director there. Andrew was the manager, brand manager. And every time we were, having lunch together, we were always thinking about what's a cool company that we could start together. And I think initially we were like, well, maybe it's a startup, or maybe it's a lifestyle company, or maybe apparel or soft goods. And every time we were thinking about it, we were drinking boba.
Like this.
It was just literally like this.
It was literally like this, and we'd be talking about, this is probably what it was like 6-8 years ago, just sitting on a bench or in our headquarters at Timbuktu. There was like a couch, or just anywhere. We were just like talking for about an hour.
And then one day we were just like, hey, how come no one, because we grew up drinking boba. So I grew up in Texas. Andrew is from Jersey, and the boba from our childhood, it was this like powdered non-dairy creamers. That's kind of just what we grew up with. Really, really sweet. And I kind of fell off the wagon during college. But then when I moved to the Bay Area, I started drinking again, and it was still like super, super sweet. And so one day we were just like, why don't we just meet up and make this, with better ingredients? No one's ever done that. And we went to your apartment, right? I think we went to your apartment, and then
we started working on recipes on YouTube.
Yep. Yeah, we started learning how to make boba, and then we had a friend, Robert, who owned this ramen restaurant called Ken Ramen. It was Japanese ramen. Yeah, it's on 18th and Mission, and he was nice enough to let us do our little boba pop-up there. So in 2011, we actually served to the public. Kind of part-time. We still kept our day jobs. We would keep our day jobs for a really long time, but we started serving it to the public. People really, really loved it. We had some articles on Good Magazine, and we started to build a following. And then after that, in 2013, we decided to open our first store in the Mission, and I think the rest is history. Yeah, we had a kind of a science motif because we weren't experts in the beginning. I think we only had 3 drinks that we could make reliably. They were the classic, the jasmine, and the soy milk tea. And those were the 3 drinks we always had on hand. And then, but every week though, we would always have an idea for a new drink. And so horchata boba was one of them, where we kind of like, we were in the Mission District, and so all the taqueries had all their different types of horchata. So we ended up learning how to make that. And every week we would always come up with a new drink idea. Some of them would work, some of them would, kind of not pan out. But we always had because we had the lab coats, and we were like, hey, this is just experimentation. Everyone was willing to give us feedback on it, and so that's kind of how we built our menu out in the early days.
In this combination, what are all the different kind of step level, like this versus this? And so we had all the different permutations listed on a spreadsheet, and we would tack every permutation for that day. Sometimes 10 hours straight, which was a whole other thing.
Oh, our whole mouths would go numb.
Our mouths would literally go numb. We couldn't sleep. One weekend we just did too much, and it was over the top. I think it kept me off of milk and boba for at least probably 3 weeks.
We backed off.
We were legitimately like stomach sick because we were going with a Thai place or Indian place, and we both loved like Thai Indian food. I forget, was it Thai?
I think it was
and we
Thai.
tried to go, and then we're like, oh, let's go. And then this was after 10 straight hours of like just testing and drinking, and we're like, oh, we're just drinking a little bit, but after a while, you know, it accumulates. And then when we were sitting at dinner, and then we both didn't want to say anything, and then I think I said or he said first, we're like, dude, I want to throw up. Like, it was like right in the middle of dinner, which is like, dude, I don't feel good.
Yeah.
And it was like probably the only breaking point that I've ever had with boba, of anything actually. Over time, we optimized it, and as Ben said, we tested it in public, so the public also helped us out, which is at the time with social media just coming out, like, you know, Facebook was out, but Instagram was not even really big yet. So we were kind of putting everything publicly, saying, hey, we don't know what we're doing, and which one's the best? But maybe I think at the time the world hadn't seen something like that yet, or maybe someone so foolish and so honest, because I think week to week we were like, pay $4, and yeah, we don't know
roll
what we're
the
doing.
dice.
Yeah.
idea that we just organically.
I mean,
Actually,
we both.
Facebook model. We definitely have.
Yeah, I mean, we used to have emblems for our next level quality seal, and it always said. At first, it said the Facebook straight from Facebook. It said move fast and break things. But then we actually started breaking.
Third one says move fast and make things.
But we actually started
Sorry,
actually
Zuckerberg.
breaking things, and so we changed it to
basically
making things.
Basically ripped off Facebook.
Yeah, but it was that spirit of we've both had startups before, and you know, I think a lot of people that get into food initially get into it a couple ways. They either went to culinary school or they learned as an apprentice, you know, before as a cook before they became a chef, or you know, someone taught them, or their grandmas passed it down. There's all these ways you can get into food. Fewer people applied it like, hey, look, we're gonna apply like a startup. We're gonna do like this very, very bare bones, like, you know,
MVP.
Yeah, minimum viable product, and like get that out there, see if there's any traction, and then build from there. And that's kind of what we applied. And I mean, to this day, I mean, each store we open is a little bit different. Like, there's no Boba Guys store that has a full kitchen. This is the very first time we're doing it. There's no store that has a section dedicated to nitrogen tea on kegs. Nitrogen tea on tap. There's no Boba Guys store that has a bakery built in the back, which is our San Carlos store. And so every new store, instead of just us cranking out the same store over and over, we've been kind of pushing the limits of what we think might work. And so far it's been great. We've been doing pretty well.
I've already capped that. Ben and I always say we don't really sell a product. You know, we're not the product business. We're in the experience business. So what we're trying to do, our mission is to bridge cultures. So what we're trying to do is have people experience cultures. And it doesn't have to be Asian versus non-Asian culture. I mean, it could be techie versus, you know, artisanal culture. It could be West Coast, like in California and New York, because we have stores in California and New York. So, you know, the little edginess that we get from New York, which is why we have like a New York. We're in California, San Francisco right now, but we're sitting in like a living room scene, which doesn't exist really out here on the West Coast. It's all in the East Coast. But on the East Coast, we talk about organics and you know, better for you and all that kind of stuff, which they're like, oh, I don't give a, like, can I swear? I don't give a fuck. Like, you're like, sorry, you can bleep that out. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, fucking organic. Like, so we're trying to get people, no, you know, for certain things like dairy, I think it makes sense if you use better things, or local at least, at the very least local, because we use a local milk out there called Bat and Kill. So anyways, all of those things we bring together, which is good. I think we like to play in the middle a lot. Both he and I are pretty centrist on a lot of things.
You know, our values are quality, transparency, and giving a damn. And the transparency part, I think, is like really, really critical to Boba Guys, because for us growing up, and even now today, there's been so many Chinese restaurants that we've been to, we've gone to. His family had one, and they've always like, for whatever reason, there hasn't been like a real glimpse into like, oh, what's actually being made, or how is it being made? What's the story behind it? You know, we literally don't know anything about any of the Chinese restaurants we went to, and so we were like, why are food companies built that way? Why can't they be like, at the time when we were thinking about what company we wanted to start, we were really taken with Everlane, because they were like, hey, it was the same thing for apparel too, where it's like you kind of didn't know like how it got to, how it got here. How did this T-shirt become $20? What goes in behind it? And for us, we were gonna shine a light on our drinks, and like, so when we wrote for a Good Magazine, every week we would put out an article, and it would say, here are the challenges that we had as entrepreneurs. Here's how we made everything. You can go on our website, you can learn how we make our milk tea. We put our recipe out there. So much of that is built into our DNA, and you do it at the beginning because it's like, if you want to do that later, it's a little bit harder to do, right? It's like, hey, no, we were...
Now we're transparent.
Yeah, now we're transparent. Yeah. And so it was just, we did it right from the get-go because it held us to that standard. And now it's like easier to make decisions because it's, it's better to just over-communicate, or it's better just to tell them everything that's in there. And so it's helped us make actually move fast and make things because we just are always so over-communicating about it.
Yeah, like as Ben said, I grew up in the restaurant industry. My parents, they were immigrants. My dad was from Hong Kong, my mom was from Taiwan. Met in the United States, and then they didn't really have, my dad never finished high school, so like didn't have any education, so they do what a lot of immigrants do. They started a restaurant. So I grew up making, well, I shouldn't say this, but because it was illegal probably, but I was making wontons, or I was cutting stuff since I was probably 7 years old.
That's every restaurant kid.
Yeah, I'm not the only restaurant brat out there. There's a lot of us. And so when we were kind of thinking about that, we were like, okay, well, I think we have and he's also an immigrant kid, so we're like, well, we have that kind of work ethic where you just get it, because there's a lot of dirty work, but I think we could do it. And I knew with Ben, I wasn't going to be the only one to do it. And then I think with me, he knew I wasn't going to be lazy and cop out either. I think we were both willing to kind of just put the effort in because of our upbringings. The other thing that I'll say though is that, because I grew up in Jersey and he grew up in rural Texas. He grew up in Wharton, Texas. I grew up in Woodbridge, New Jersey, where I think I was like one of 2 Asian families. You were the only one?
I was the only one.
You're the only one. I grew up playing baseball and sports before I learned how to study really hard. And same with him. I'm a little tired of all the stereotypes. I'm tired that Asian people are, sometimes people think we're shady, or we're secretive, and we're cliquey, and we're exclusive, and we just all stick together. And there is a little truth to that, but at the same time, like, I think there's more to that. And Ben and I had this take where we always jived with this ever since we met like 6-7 years ago, which was, you can't be fully one side, which is like total homogenous, and be like Panda Express, and no offense to them, but they're like really one far off. And then on the other side, you can't be so kind of ethnic and ultra cultural that you feel like you're leaving people out.
Inaccessible, yeah.
Yeah, inaccessible, exactly. And so when we made Boba Guys, we were like, how do you find that balance where when people look at Boba Guys, they're like, yeah, they're 2 Asian guys who run it. Yeah, so they're legit Asian. If they wanted to, they can make real legit food and Asian food, and they could tell the stories. But they also get this kind of American thing going. They do a lot of charity work, or they do community stuff. They do things that you would normally identify with Western kind of companies, like Everlane. Transparency, right? So when we did that, we were very careful that we were going to bridge cultures. And then we always say to our team, even, it's in our manual, we don't blend cultures. Blending cultures is what people think should happen maybe, which is where you take 2 cultures and you kind of put it all in one, and you're like, oh, let's just make like a new set of cultures. And I don't think it's like that. I think bridging cultures is saying, hey, come to my world, come to my culture, come visit for a while like a tourist, and let me show you around, and then let me show you what a kaya toast is, or Hong Kong style, or a Korean fried chicken. And then when you go back to a coffee shop or whatever, you'll be like, hey, that kind of reminds me of Boba Guys, but in the tea way. So I think when you put that all together, that's our approach to culture. And culture, by the way, is our number one thing. And it was getting hot at the time that we were coming out with Boba Guys.
Oh, yeah.
And we were like, oh, no Asian guy's gonna play basketball and go to Harvard, right? And we realized, wow, if he could bridge cultures in media and sports, I'm pretty sure food is going to be the same. And at the time, it was really only David Chang that was getting hot. Now there's Eddie and David and Eric So and all these great guys. But with sports, we had started to see that with Jeremy. So I think that also gave us a lot of, we're like, wow, we're not just Asian. I think people can respect us if we were in the heart of a tourist area. Would they drink boba in the middle of Union Square? I'd like to say that we proved that you could do it when maybe a decade ago you couldn't.
So if you come to our stores, you'll see all walks, you'll see all ages, all ethnicities, and our employees reflect that too. So I think that was really kind of the thing that the glue that binds us all together, is that we're in it for the really long haul, and it helps us, just gives us more clarity because we're not trying to take shortcuts.
So the way it looks.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew does more of the store build outs. I think for us, in terms of our logo, we get questions a lot about the logo. They're like, hey, what is that? Is that an anteater? Actually, it's an aardvark. But for us, we wanted to create a brand that felt inviting and it felt like welcoming, but a little bit exotic too, and it's like, I think that's a perfect analogy for boba, especially bringing it to kind of, mainstream. In our eyes, mainstream is a great word because it's like bringing all kinds of different people together. And so for us, like, the aardvark really encapsulates kind of what we're about, which is like, it's even the way it's rendered, could have drawn it so many different ways. We could have made it more cutesy, but the way that we've done it, very flat, very woodblock print style, and black and white, because we want to go with a very classic look.
The stores, when Ben designed the logo, he designed the look and feel, he designed the menus. When I build the stores, I think about transparency a lot more. So we have white and glass almost everywhere. And it's the glass, not fiber. Like what is it, plastic, fiberglass.
You can see into our kitchen.
So you can see into our kitchen. So even if it's transparent, you gotta be able to know its quality. So from every material, like this piece of this like real wood, we try to make everything, like even these coasters, people steal them though, which sucks, but these are $30 coasters. And everything we do is about quality, transparency, and giving a damn. We choose everything. No store has the same coasters. We don't buy the same coasters at every store. We don't buy the same stuff because we try to make it very unique. That's why these books are all our favorite books. And these are all the books that influenced us. Ben created a canvas of timelessness, of classic. I just interpreted it as white, wood, Scandinavian, and Japanese. It's kind of minimalist, which is how we ended up where we are.
What was the biggest low?
Oh, I definitely know the low. What's the high though? Well, I would say the low is definitely, not a ton of people know it, but for us, Boba Guys almost didn't happen.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was a low. It's there was a time where after the pop-ups, when you do a pop-up, Boba Guys has never been about the money, but when you do a pop-up, it's definitely not about the money. Because for those that don't know, you have to cut in the people that are hosting you. You're buying things with retail. We were going to the supermarket to buy things, full price. It was just, we weren't paying ourselves for the first couple years. Like, it was definitely just a passion project for us. And so, we're pretty accomplished in our careers. I think we can say that now. We've been in the corporate world over a decade, and we've made a name for ourselves. And so, we were at an age where you either start to go after director and even VP roles, you start to climb higher up the corporate ladder, or you take the leap and become an entrepreneur. And so that was a really tough decision, and it's not easy for anyone to make. And I think specifically, it's really tough for Asian Americans to make.
Because we're taught to be safe.
Yeah, So it was really, really, really difficult, and our family was like, "What are you guys doing?" At the time, he was finishing up his MBA at Berkeley, Berkeley Haas, and so it was just like you go to one of the best business schools to start a boba shop. So that was pretty insane. We kind of grappled with it a lot, and so there was a time where it was like in the wintertime, we'd done the pop-up for a couple of months. We got a lot of big buzz, but we weren't sure, like, hey, is this gonna be our life for the next foreseeable future? And that was a really, really tough decision. And then we made the decision to go both feet in, and we made the decision together, and then we haven't looked back, and we're 5 years strong now. So that was definitely the low point, though. It almost didn't happen. I feel like highs every day.
I feel like I honestly think almost every day gets better.
I would say one high I can think about is when we told everyone we're doing New York, they kind of looked at us a little bit crazy because they're like, A, you guys aren't there. There isn't as big of an audience in terms of like high-end boba as LA is. There's not, you would have to be kind of making so many things from scratch, from the employees to the stores to the following to the, no one knows your brand. Like,
they don't know the word boba?
They don't know the word boba. They call it bubble tea.
East Coast. They're like, what is boba? Doesn't boba mean boobs?
A lot of people were in our ear about like, why are you going to New York? Like, this sounds insane. You have a sure bet with all these other places, or just continue to just grow in San Francisco, because we only had 2 stores. We were working on the 3rd store at the time. So we didn't even have that many San Francisco stores, and we made the leap to do New York. And it wasn't until our first pop-up where we saw lines, 2 or 3 New York blocks are really long. We had huge lines at our pop-up, and we were like, oh my God, see, like I think that was a huge high for me.
Giant Robot exclusive. New York, that high caused probably the second lowest low we got, which was we had to turn down VC money. We were given essentially $2 million, just under $2 million to essentially Series A from a very reputable firm. A boba shop would have probably been on the front page of TechCrunch, I'm pretty sure. We just didn't agree on the vision. And that's really what made us question our DNA. And so the deal died on the operating table. It was sad, and it was like, I'll just say it ended with somebody walking out of us on a meeting. So, word to the entrepreneurs, you really got to, if you're values driven, make sure you test your values. And I think a lot of people say they're values driven, but they don't really truly test it. I think you got to find real, I would say, moments or key decision points where you're able to say, I had a really hard decision and there was a fork in the road, and I chose my direction based on values, not opportunity, money, fame, status.
I would just caution a lot of entrepreneurs or people that want to start small businesses is that, there's like so much work behind it to be successful. And I think it's like the energy you go into like jumping on a trend or just copying or just finding the next best thing and not really trying is like, it's really not worth it. It's so much work.
Our favorite boba shop is Wonderful Foods.
Yeah, I think our favorite boba shop, we've always said openly, is Wonderful Foods. It was actually what got me back into boba, because I didn't drink it for years in college.
Here in San Francisco, it's like one of the oldest, if not the oldest, San Francisco boba shop.
Mom and pop, been around, never franchised. It's just that one store,
and they
right?
use creamer.
Yeah.
Like we're anti-creamer. They use creamer. You get what you pay for, but it was good. We used to drive all the way across the city just to get it.
Yeah, so it's like the boba as a category we've always had a love for. But I think at least
10 rent down south, half and half.
I think when we started, there just wasn't a ton of places that were using like real milk, brewing their own teas. Even the ones that didn't do it across the board. You would get like a winter melon and it'd be like made out of powders.
Stop with the freaking shortcuts, or fucking shortcuts. Stop shortcutting everything. It's just like, I don't get it. Use that same energy that you use to get straight A's, and when you apply to business, like you guys have shortcuts for some reason. It doesn't make sense to me. Don't discount your culture. Don't discount your food. And I think it's true. We're on the same boat. I just think it gives Asian Americans a bad name to constantly share or copy everything. When you're discounting, the Asians are like, well, then it's not worth it. It's not the other people, not non-Asians discounting us. It's Asians discounting ourselves. And it's not even discounting. I actually think it's ripping them down, dragging them down and ripping them apart. And then so if I had to say something to the Asian American community, and this could be the caffeine talking or just my fire talking, I just think that we do a lot better if we all just like gave ourselves A's. Sounds cheesy, but like just realize that, hey, like we're okay. Because I think a lot of it's coming from this chip on the shoulder, and so you have this chip, so you try to tear other people down. Like
it's just for us, you know, we're trying to change the way people think about Boba NDT. And so for the longest time, it was very secretive. It was all franchises. There wasn't a lot of innovation. And so we're starting a trend, and there's many places, you know, there's places in LA like Alfred T that are doing it well. They use our teas. T-Bar in Portland, yeah, that we know them well, and they were also came to us with the Vice. Those are ones where they've actually been like, hey, yeah, you know, like, yeah, we've been, you know, we're happy to talk to you guys and get inspiration from, and we support them right back. And so I think that is what keeps us oversharing and just giving back, because, you know, we've had a lot of people take us under the wing too. And so now we're seeing a new generation of food entrepreneurs. This one is the best example that we've done, which is, you know, we started as a pop-up shop inside of a ramen restaurant, and now we're hosting a pop-up with Dookie Hong. You know, for those that don't know, he's one of the hottest Korean chefs. He's Chef 30 under 30.
On Amazon.
Rated by Forbes, Chef 30 under 30. He's got his own.
Shoot, we put out a real one.
He's got his own cookbook.
Signed copy. Don't steal this.
So we're hosting, you know, we're hosting pop-ups, and so we're literally paying it forward to the next generation. And so I think we think part of that is our duty and our mission to bridge cultures, and, you know, we hope that in the future more small businesses are kind of built this way, you know, getting into it for the right reasons, doing the right thing, not taking any shortcuts, and I think ideally everyone's better because of it.
And you do got to break the rules. I think Ben and I we don't break the rules just for the sake of breaking it. And I think that's the other thing too. Most people who are entrepreneurs are like, well, I'm an entrepreneur. I do what I want, say what I want, and, you know, like, fuck everybody. That's not the case either. Ben and I, the fact that we lasted each over a decade in corporate America pretty successfully was because we knew when to listen and when to speak up. And so we're definitely not, you know, like, my way or the highway. I think people care too much about face, and I think social media, and it's stereotypical because, you know, Asian culture and face and all that kind of stuff. But especially with social media, there's this like facade that you got to put on. When Ben and I quit, it was a big deal for a good MBA student who did venture capital in business school to choose a boba shop, or a creative director with a well-known blog to do a boba shop. But you also have to see, like, you know, that's not all about saving face or all that kind of stuff. It's just, life is too short. Like,
I knew you were gonna say that.
Wait.
No, I was gonna say that too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Sorry, I went on a little. I think we get philosophical when I drink boba too.
There's some confusion.